Okay, I was commenting on a flat earther dude just 10-15 minutes ago. And a guy, I know it looks like I got a black eye, but it's not a black eye, it's grease from work. Anyway, a guy, instead of commenting on the flat earth thing, which I assumed would happen, he commented on my tag name, which is Extreme Atheist, asking me why I'm an atheist. Nothing to do with flat earther, just straight up asked me, how are you an atheist? And I told him, you need extraordinary evidence. And the comment he just made was what every religious nutbag says. Says that, I have extraordinary evidence, I've spoken to God, I've heard these devils. Again, that's not evidence. You know, testimony is not evidence. Actual tangible evidence, something that we can actually experiment on, that's evidence. Now, when I say extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence, it's true. Just like, and I said the same thing about the flat earth theory. You need real evidence. Not just hearsay, not just what you believe. You need actual, tangible evidence. None of these guys have it. None of these guys will have it because there is no evidence. He was talking about the whole Moses thing, the whole Noah thing. For one, the Bible was wrote by man. Okay? The whole Bible. All of it was wrote by a dude. Or many dudes, actually. And then voted on in the Council of Nicaea. In like 365 or something like that. So 365 years after the death of your supposed Messiah. You know, I'm not going to put on kid gloves for somebody who is blind to reason. And I do agree. Logic and intelligence does not automatically make you an atheist. Common sense should make you an atheist. I mean, do you honestly believe that some dude lived for 300 years? That some dude split the Red Sea with a stick? That he went up to the top of Mount Sinai, which, like I said again in my last video, not that tall. You know, Everest is taller than that. So if you really want to get to God, and God's supposed to be up there, wouldn't you rather go up to the top of Everest instead of Mount Sinai? Anyway, I digress. Goes up there, supposedly talking to God, making these tablets. Then he comes down in a rage, drops the tablets, tells these people, you know, after they start worshiping a golden bull. Comes down, gets all pissed off, melts the golden bull, makes them eat it or drink it, whatever. And then he says, oh, and then God tells me to tell you, go to this next county over here, kill all the men, kill all the women, kill all the boys, but the girls that are virgins, keep so you may know them. You're telling me this actually happened when there's no evidence whatsoever. For one, if a pharaoh lost all of his slaves, then it would have been documented. The Egyptians, the Romans, the Chinese even, all these people were very literate people. They had their own way of writing. They had their own way of keeping records. Hell, the Romans were so detailed with their records, they could tell you what size the fucking emperor's dick was, okay? So, I mean, these guys were extraordinary record keepers. None of these guys ever wrote anything about a dude named Moses, or the splitting of the Red Sea, or the letting go of all these bullshit things like, you know, the plagues that he supposedly let go. Granted, The Prince of Egypt was a good movie. I liked it. I was a kid. I loved it. I mean, it was Disney, so naturally they sang a lot, and that's the only thing I have against Disney is they sing all the fucking time. But other than that, there's no evidence, there's no proof. None at all. You know, no tangible proof. You know, if your God is real, and your God is actually, you know, supposedly controlling everything I do, why doesn't he come down and tell me on what I'm fucking up on why I should believe in him? And to a lot of those people out there, if you've read the Bible like I have, from Exodus all the way to Genesis and back and forth, I've even read the Old Testament, which was fucking crazy, but I've read all these books, okay? And that's all they are, books. They're books wrote and voted on by man. Now, why do people believe in this stuff? I can tell you why. Because people need a scapegoat. They can't just say, oh, I fucked up, I gotta do better. They're gonna say, oh, I fucked up, the devil made me do it. And I see it a lot. It's my lunch hour. I'm eating. Anyway. I laugh when people tell me this stuff. I laugh when I hear about it. You know, serial killers quote the devil made me do it. You know, preachers say, you know, God told me to do this. So, here's my question. What makes you better than me? Name one thing that a religious person can honestly say they can do that I can't. You can't do it. I tried believing. I've studied, like I said, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, all the derivatives of Christianity and Catholicism. I've studied them all, and they're all, for lack of better words, they're all crap. You know, they're all scare tactics to make you a blind sheep, which is kind of funny because on the channel that I was commenting on is a flat earther, and they call people who believe in the globe sheeple. They basically contradict their own little saying because they're sheep, including, according to this Bible, the Lord, aka Jesus, is the Messiah. He is the leader. He is the one who directs the sheep in the right direction. Literally calling you sheep. He's the shepherd, you're the sheep. He's literally calling you a sheep. And nobody understood this. Nobody decided to take a second glance saying, you're basically calling me a mindless animal. That's literally what it is. They're making you a mindless animal. To be scared of something that has no evidence or proof is illogical in the beginning. And, you know, I've met people who are scared shitless of going to hell, but will look death right in the face and not even blink. If that tells you how stupidly devoted these people are. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying every religious nutbag, and yes, I call them nutbag if they're extremely religious. I'm not calling every religious person an idiot. There are some very brilliant ones out there. I know quite a few of them. You know, I'm not going to sit there and say just because you believe in something that has no evidence or proof that was wrote 2,000 years ago. Actually, longer than that, because it's all came from Judaism, so about 4,000 years ago. You're telling me that this book that had ripped other beliefs from other religions to make it easier for pagans to become Christian, you're telling me this is the truth. Humans have been on the earth for over 100,000 years. And you're telling me just 4,000 years ago, that's when it started being true? That's when God decided to intervene? Come on. There's plenty of evidence against it. You know, like the Dead Sea, when he splitteth the sea with his stick. Or my favorite one to debunk is Noah's Ark. Okay. Noah's Ark. It says 2 animals of every kind. What exactly are these kinds? Number 2. Where are the bones of the animals that died? Where are the bone trails of all these animals that went to different parts of the world? Why are there only this kind of animal in a certain part of the world, and only this part of the animal in another part of the world? And if Noah and his family were the only human survivors, that would mean we're all products of inbred, of incest. So, that would explain why you could call everybody brother and sister. But, we don't have we're not malnourished, we're not deformed, we don't have any problems really. We've seen products of incest. You know, within memory, we've seen it. So if we are indeed products of incest, you know, how did black people come? How did Mexicans come? How did white people come? Because Moses would have been Egyptian, which means he would have looked more like a black guy than look like me. Same with Jesus. He would have looked like Osama bin Laden and not look like me, because he was born in that part of the world. And you're telling me that of all the places in the world that people were very literate, very skilled with mathematics, very skilled with just writing in general, that the only place God decided to come down was a place where nobody knew how to fucking write and read? Where children were dying in infancy due to malnourishment and problems with their teeth? You know, the average person lived to be 35 to 40. So if you go by that logic, Jesus was about to die anyway. He was considered an old man. That is if Jesus even really existed. Again, there's no actual evidence of him. There's a story. There's stories of Hercules too. You know, there's more stories of Hercules than there are of Jesus. There's more miracles, if you will, of Zeus and Hera and all these other gods. But yet your God is a superior one when they took the image of Zeus and made him your God? I mean, come on. Like, hell, even the story of Adam and Eve. There's no way that's true. For starters, if Adam and Eve really did exist, it would have been somewhere in Africa. That's where the first evidence of the first humans came from, was in Africa. So they would have been black. Or darker skin tone, whatever you want to call it. How would I have gotten here? How about the Chinese, the Japanese, the Koreans? They would have had to cross expansive oceans to get to where they're at. Same with the Europeans. You know, you're telling me the further up you go into the snow, your skin turns white? That'd make no sense. Because you can actually get sunburn from the glare off of ice. You can go blind. It's called ice blindness. You're telling me that from these two people that we came around. And the Bible itself contradicts itself. It says there was Adam and Eve. They had 4 sons. The sons went out and married women. Where did these women come from? Were they their sisters? If they were, why weren't they in the Bible? And since we're talking about religion in the Bible itself is extremely sexist. Everything that's wrong with the world seems to have happened because of a woman. With Adam and Eve, with you name it, women always have a problem with it. And I'm not saying women have a problem with it. I mean, women are the problem. You know, this book is designed to oppress women. You know, until you sit there and tell me that this book, if you try to sit there and tell me that this book is good for women, you deserve to be smacked. Because obviously you have not read this book. See, I read the book objectively. In other words, I did not believe or disbelieve. I was agnostic for the longest time. You know, I've never been a true believer. And anybody who tries to say, well, you weren't a good Christian, the no true Scotsman fallacy needs to stop. How are you a true Christian? Are you one of those dumb zealots that went out and bought 5,000 things of toilet paper because you thought the coronavirus was going to somehow hurt your butthole? Respiratory, dude. Anyway, I wasn't going to make a religious video today. I wasn't going to make a video about religion or flat earth, or, you know, I was probably going to make another video, a little short video about the coronavirus, how in America the number went from the mid 60s to like 110, 112 people that have been confirmed killed by this virus. Now, that is true. You know, you can look it up on the CDC. Yeah, on the CDC. You know, they usually tell the truth. Even though they're the ones who fucked up in the begin with, they're at least fixing their problems. Anyway. The reason why I'm making this video, because it's easier for me to make a video about the stupidity of this crap than it is for me to sit there and just tap away. And you know, I've been trolled before. Just because of my name, I've been trolled. Like, dude, if you don't like what I have to say, if you don't like my name, don't look at what I say. You know, you don't have to read every comment. You don't have to watch my videos. You choose to. And if you want to get butthurt about it, fine, get butthurt. But if you're going to try to put me on blast, make sure you have evidence to back up whatever the hell you're claiming. And like I said, this guy said, oh, I have extensive evidence, blah, blah, blah. No, you don't. You have personal thoughts of what you think happened. You don't have evidence. You don't have tangible evidence of anything. Same with flat earthers. That's why I lump flat earthers and religious people into cults, because most of them are. I mean, they say they don't like sacrifice. You believe one man sacrificed his life who came down as God, who was God that came down as Jesus, by the way, according to your book. You believe that one man sacrificed his life for all of our sins, even though he preached that original sin was wrong. That was his whole thing, that he was basically bashing the Jews, is what he was doing. That was the ideology, like, that's what I picked up on it. And like I said, I read the book thoroughly. I would go to church and listen to these morons talk and yell and scream and all this kind of shit. Oh, I got the spirit in me. No, you don't, bitch. You know, it's funny how people are like, oh, I felt something so good when I was in church, when we were singing together. You know, I felt the same thing when I was listening to music. When I was listening to classical music, I felt the same way. It's when it dawned on me. It's just a feeling. You know, I don't believe classical music is somehow omniscient, but it gives you the same exact feeling. The uplifting feeling that you get in church, you can get from music. Any kind of music. And like I said, no tangible evidence whatsoever. It's all in your mind. That's all it is. It's a thought process. You know, I mean, come on. There's Catholic preachers out there that preach, you know, celibacy. Yet, in this book that they believe in so much, God said, feel free and procreate. So you're literally going against what God said. It also says, don't worship idols. What the fuck you think a cross is? It's an idol. What do you think the Bible is? It's an idol. It's an object. You're not supposed to worship objects. You're supposed to worship the douchebag upstairs. And yes, I call him a douchebag because he's a fucking prick. He is. He's a major dick. You know, he promotes genocide. He promotes bashing homosexuals. Promotes beating your wife and your children. I mean, hell, even Jesus did that. He went to these guys. They weren't catching a damn thing at the lake. Poof, he did some kind of magic spell or whatever the fuck, and they started catching a lot of fish. Instead of saying, you know, well, have a nice day, here you go. Instead of doing that, he was like, how about you leave all these fish? Leave all your belongings and your families and follow me. And you will be right with God. Fast forward to today. If a man leaves his family and all of his belongings, he's considered a piece of shit. The only difference in today and yesteryear, if you will, you're being told to do it. So you blindly follow the guy. Like I said, it's a blind belief structure. It's a blind following thing. It's a cult. You know, most churches beg you to give them money. That's why, and they have a way they do it. What they do is they tell this fascinating story. This beautiful story about how good people are, about how good it is to be Christian. And they tell you a sad story. They start playing that sad music. And then they start passing around the bowls. It's literally manipulating you into wanting to do so. Like, you feel bad, so you give money. Even though it has nothing to do with the church. You feel bad about the story, so you give money. And then they talk about charity. And it's funny how religious people always throw charity out there. You know, atheists are charitable too. You know, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Dan Dennett, and Sam Harris made an atheist charity. 100% of the proceedings go to the charity, go to helping those people that they're trying to help. You can't say the same thing about religious crap. You can't say the same thing about, say, the stuff you see on TV, you know. Oh, if you give money to God, that it's going to be good. You give money to this charity, it's going to be good. How much of that money that you're giving is actually going to the charity, and how much of it is going to the televangelist that's sitting there shoving it in your head? There's a reason why televangelists are filthy rich. There's a reason why those preachers who are on television are filthy rich. Because they're getting paid to lie to you. They're basically politicians. And like I said in one of my last videos, I've made a lot, so go find it. One of my last videos, I was stating a fact that religious people, politicians, cults, flat earthers, they're all the same. No matter how much you want to cut it, slice it, whatever, they're all the same. They all have a blind belief structure. They're all trying to tell you whatever you want to hear so they can make more money. You know, I know some preachers right now making extraordinary amounts of money. That's all they do. They're a full-time preacher and they're making more money than I ever will working an actual fucking job. And don't get me wrong, I've never been a preacher, so I couldn't tell you how hard it is to force shit into people's heads. And most people who are religious are brought into it. They're raised into it. Like, you're raised to be Catholic, you're raised to be Christian, you're raised to be Jew, whatever. It's like I said in one of my videos. Think of it like this. You never heard of religion, never heard of Christianity, Catholicism, Jesus, God, whatever. Never heard of any of it until you were about a sophomore in high school. Would you look at it as mythology like every other god out there? Or would you still believe it? I almost guarantee you wouldn't believe it. Most people would say instantly, oh, I'd believe it. No, you wouldn't. Because if you were taught actual stuff, like actual stuff they're supposed to be teaching you in school, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't be blindly going to church every Sunday. Like, what kid actually enjoys going to church? I can honestly tell you, I've seen time and time again where kids hate going to church. That's why churches started coming out with these child things. They have a children's church. Well, they tell you all the censored bullshit until you're about 15, 16 when you can actually go out into the big boy world, sit in the pews, listen to some old man yelling at you about the same stupid shit over and over again. That's when you start hearing here's the worst part. They don't tell you everything in the Bible when they're preaching. They only tell you certain psalms that may or may not have something to do with what's going on. And I mean, I've seen religious, like there's a guy that's doing a live feed right now. He's a piece of shit, man. Because he's literally saying that the coronavirus is a good thing. That the reason why the coronavirus happened is because we stopped praying to God. You're a jackass. I don't know where you are, but if someone's around you, you just deserve to be smacked. Because you're a zealot, dude. You're a jackass. You know, coronavirus is not a God thing. The plague was not a God thing. None of these diseases we've had, or epidemics that they call it, are God things. They're not. Anybody who believes in that just needs to be smacked. Anyway, I'm going to get off here. I'm going to finish my lunch. I'm going to enjoy a cigar in peace. You guys have a good day.